I was born in Lebanon. Lebanon is one of the smallest countries in the world. Historically, one of the oldest inhabited countries in the world as well. And back then, it was a population of just around 1 million or less people in the whole country. My dream when I was young was to meet people all around the world. My dream also was to interact with people globally, to walk the streets of different countries and see how people live and see how I can add to their lives and how they can add and teach me in my life. And the world is full of colors in my eyes every minute, no matter how gloomy it is. I always saw the brightness. And I feel like I grew up very, very fast. And I feel like my childhood was very brief. I lived initially with my mom and dad, and they traveled quite a bit. Africa, Middle East, a little bit of Europe, Spain. They settled in Kuwait, this desert country in the Gulf, in the Middle East. And when I got into middle school, I couldn't do the desert life anymore. So I wanted to live with my grandparents in Lebanon. So my mom supported me. I moved to Lebanon, and civil war started. They weren't able to come visit. I wasn't able to leave and visit them, so there was a good-sized chapter in my life living in Lebanon, and this is where I have most of my memories. Culturally, we take care of our elders, and it's almost mandatory. There's no ifs, whens, or buts. These people got us here. These people are what created our society, and we're supposed to carry them until the end. So I felt like I was responsible for them as well, even though they're the ones taking care of me. But on the inside, I felt like whatever they wanted, whatever they needed, it's on me. Actually brings you down, makes you even more humble, and teaches you a different perspective and makes you look at things differently in life. I wanted to come to school in the US. So I remember there was no US embassy in Lebanon. It was closed because of the war. So I drove about 3 or 4 hours with my aunt to Syria. And I stood in a line of 5,000 people trying to get a visa. And they weren't given visas at the time. And I was one of 5,000 people that they gave a visa to. I waited in line. I was like one of the last 5 or 6 people there. And of course, people were trying to flee war, so they weren't just giving visas and issuing it to everyone. But when I got there, I remember the consulate. She asked me, why do I want to go to the US? And I told her I want to go to school. And visa, see you later. And then less than 3 months, I jumped over a plane and I came. I remember getting off the plane, and I was so scared. I was so scared. I didn't have my grandparents. I didn't have my mom, my dad. I didn't have my brothers. I didn't have my friends. I didn't have my culture. Didn't have my language. So right when that door opened up and those stairs, I looked around and I just saw a different world. You have to respect where you came from. Having culture puts a different set of responsibilities on your back. And it's that mindset. It's a mindset of positivity. It's about your family, it's about your grandparents, it's about how do you help them succeed so we can live another day. When I started going to college, I just hated it. LA was way too much for me. So I kind of drove up north 2.5, 3 hours to a little place called Fresno back then. Now Fresno's big. And I actually went to college in Fresno, and I was studying architecture. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, except wanting to be like my dad. So I started studying architecture. He was an engineer, civil engineer, and an architect, and I wanted to be like him. So that's what I started studying. I think a huge learning lesson for me is when I came to the United States, and I was able to witness the melting pot. I started to ease a little bit into being different and learning that everybody in America is different, and I'm just part of everybody. How can you live with people that believe in different things and still accept them? How do you share commonalities and respect differences? And that was, I would say, this has been one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in life, as I've taken everything that I've known when I was younger, and I had to learn from different people. Ignorance was fear, and fear was ignorance. And as you get deeper and you learn more about people, you'll find out at the end of the day that we are all absolutely the same. With all our differences, we are absolutely the same. And this is what helped me grow in communications and creating relationships. The whole family is into health and the health industry. I have two uncles that have had stores for well over 40 years. Extremely successful, extremely happy doing what they do. So they actually supported my dad on purchasing a store in a little city called Pleasant Hill, a few minutes from San Francisco. And so my dad buys the store, and I get a phone call, and he's telling me, hey, summer is coming up, why don't you take that semester off and just come to the store and watch it over for me for a few months, and I'm gonna go and bring your mom and brothers over to the US. This is when I got a tiny little VW with no shocks, 3 different wheels, nice black little hatchback. I actually drove it up to Pleasant Hill, and I walked into that store, that health food store. It was called Natural Life Foods. I walk in the store, and I'm new in the country. I don't know much about health, okay? And I don't know much about nutrition. And I walk into this business, and it's colorful, bright, and confusing. I walk in, there's tiny little bottles everywhere. I don't know what they do. Definitely stressed and scary, but I was excited that I don't have to go to school for the summer. So I didn't care. I was gonna, okay, let's do it. And there was a nutritionist running the store at the time. So I walk in the store, her name was Marilyn, and she greeted me. My dad was still there, and he's like, okay, Marilyn's gonna help you, teach you some stuff. I'll be back before the end of the summer so you can go back to school. First day, I see people walk in, and there wasn't much business, a little bit of activity, but kind of constant flow. A person would walk in every hour or two. I started seeing Marilyn interact with people and talk about them, and it was like way over my head. I didn't know what vitamin A is, what glucosamine is, what MSM is, what collagen is. There was no collagen back then, and the industry was very, different, of course, but it was definitely overwhelming. When you walk into a store like this and you see so many bottles and you don't know what anything does, what you're supposed to do except make the deposit every evening, it's definitely a scary feeling. So I had to learn how to do everything, and I had to learn what everything does, and I had to learn where everything is, and I had to learn how to run the store to keep it open. You can't go on a computer and search what something does, and people are walking in and they're telling me, hey, do you have something for the eyes? I'm like, ooh, right? So it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing because people made remarks like, who leaves a kid at a store? They would tell me straight to my face. They'll be like, where's Marilyn? I'll be like, I'm sorry, she didn't show up. And I'm trying to. And they're like, who are you? I'm like, well, my dad bought the store. And they knew the last owner. They were like upset at everything, and I understand. And I just felt I was helpless. And without the support of Father Google, back in the day, and I had to actually start cracking open some books. And I remember Prescription for Nutritional Healing. One of my first books that I opened, I was 7th edition or something like that. And I started reading, and it was unbelievable what the products do, what vitamin A does. I learned from vitamin A to Z, all the nutrients. And as I started learning and studying, little by little, a person would come in and they would ask me, hey, can you help me find something for this, right? And I was eventually able to recommend something for them that would help them. And that was a huge win for me, because I felt empowered, and I felt that I'm able to learn and grow. And the reward part came weeks or a few months later when I started seeing the same person again the second time, and they would give me a compliment. And they're like, well, we just want to tell you thank you so much, and this is working great, and we feel better. And I'm like, wait, I was able to help this person and their family. It was a different kind of weight, where it kind of brought back my past, responsibility part, right? And I felt like I can actually do this. I love studying it. I love learning that industry. Little by little, I started learning more and more and more. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, peptides, fibers, carbohydrates, fats, what they do. And I started doing night school at a local college, doing some nutrition. And I started diving deeper and deeper into it. And my food was people coming back and encouraging me and telling me, we're impressed. You're doing a good job. Thank you. You're helping us feel better. And I'm like, how can I not do this? I'm super committed to this. And I remember my father calling me 2.5, 3 months later, telling me, hey, I'm not gonna be coming back. Your mother and your brothers, they don't want to come to the US. They want to stay in Lebanon. And he said, just go sell the store and send us the money and just go back to school. I don't believe it was an option. My life was studying nutrition in the morning, working with people, and studying nutrition at night in school. So I really didn't have an option. I just lived it. And as I lived it, it just started to grow on me. The people that I would meet with, I felt responsible for them. To give me an opportunity to be able to serve them and help them, and telling me thank you and giving me their money. I'm like, why would I think of anything else? And these people kind of depend on me. I can't let them down. That was it. That was my mentality. As I started learning about ingredients and products, you have this proud feeling. There's people that actually expect me to be on top of the industry in knowledge, what everything in the store does and why, how biology and chemistry and physics work inside anatomy inside your system, and how your body reacts from genetics to epigenetics and your surroundings. So that was one part of it. The second part of it is the sense of responsibility of delivering quality for somebody that, again, is investing in me, their health, their money. So I'm responsible for that. So a few years into the industry, there was a lot of controversy on some big brands putting wrong ingredients in the products and fooling people, deceiving people. So there was a show 2020 still airs right now. There's an episode about some of the biggest brands in the industry, and some of them I sold at the store. They actually were guilty of having houseplants inside their capsules that they're selling people. And I just freaked out. I couldn't trust anything and anyone. I started calling companies, asking for certificates of analysis, which they didn't even know what it was back then. There was no quality control. I started talking to owners, suppliers, manufacturers to find something I can depend on, right? Something I know. If it says 500 milligrams, it better have 500 milligrams. Because I studied, the 400 doesn't do the job. You need 500 3 times a day. This is when I dive deep into manufacturing, raw materials, learning about ingredients, learning about the source of an ingredient, learning about uniqueness of an ingredient. The percentage of active ingredient actually matters. And the blend of what you put it with and how it synergistically works together, how to give people the results is extremely important. As I started talking to manufacturers and sourcing raw materials, I wanted to put a product together. I remember the product, it was a prostate formula. All these men are coming in and trusting me. These women are coming in and buying the stuff for their husbands. And the top 3-4 brands got hit selling house plants, and I'm guilty. No way I'm gonna let these people down. So I'm like, okay, as I'm making calls, sourcing and manufacturing, there's $10 and $20 a pound. Then there's 60 and 70 a pound and 100 a pound. I'm like, why? Why can you buy $10 a pound, $100 a pound, and even $300 a pound? And I learned something that I will never ever forget. The $60 one has like 2 or 3%. $200 one has like 15%. The $300 one was like 20% active ingredient. So I'm sitting and thinking, okay, there's no thinking. I want the best for my people. I want the results at the end of the day. I want them to come back and tell me how it worked, and I want to get more of these stories. The stories that got me to do where I'm at, and that what got me to believe in what I do. So I chose the most expensive one. I sourced it. I had it shipped to the manufacturing facility. I put it on the shelf, and the price, no joke, the price was 5 times more expensive than the most expensive one that was on there for prostate. So people would come in, do you have something for prostate? They look at the price, they're like, what? No, I can't. I'm not doing this. You know, this is so expensive. Wait, let me tell you why it's expensive. And I told them exactly what I just said. And they're like, okay, all right, I'll try it. I'll try it for a month. I'll try it for 2 months. And man, I remember the first man using the product, and the first few after him, first few women bought it for their husbands. And I remember the first one coming back with a paper from his doctor showing his levels drop and how much month after month. And that was my first lesson with my first product on never compromising the integrity and the quality to save a penny, because this is your temple. You need to walk, you need to think, you need to be healthy, you need to perform, you need to go to work. This is not a place to save money, and this is the place where you indulge and give yourself the best. The results confirmed what I had decided, which is never ever to compromise integrity and quality. The more important part is just I loved what I was doing so much, and nothing, no matter how scared I was, no matter how much lack of money I had to even place an order, through depressions and recessions, through industry boycotts, through many challenges. Challenges will always come. Do we run away, or do we find a way to fix it? Every time I would win a small fight, I would gain confidence. Confidence about what I was doing and that I'm doing the right thing. And I would just fall in love with it more and more. And the challenges that continue today will always be, and they will only get bigger and bigger. But your confidence in beating the challenge becomes more and more rewarding as well. That a lot of people are scared of taking the journey because they're afraid of failures. And I think failure is the reason for success. You can't taste the sweet success without crying and falling on your knees, falling on your face multiple times. You're supposed to take the journey, you're supposed to fall, you're supposed to bleed, you're supposed to cry, you're supposed to get up, you're supposed to fix it. We have a responsibility for people, for other people in our lives, for our community, for our country, for everything around us, and you can't abandon this responsibility. And your job, and my job, and everybody's job is to find a way to make it happen, no matter what challenges come in. Challenges are there for a reason. The reason is to surpass them.